Kia ora, hello and welcome to The Breakdown. This is a special night. Tonight, we find out who the All Black captain is for 2020. Yes, and we got him first on The Breakdown. New All Black captain. He's captained them before. Congratulations, Sam Cane. Fantastic news for us. Proud of the fact you're getting this opportunity to lead our national side. Who was it that contacted you? How did the conversation go?
Yeah, cheers, Goldie. G'day, Mills. Look, I had to sit on it a wee while, actually, due to COVID-19. So it was a couple of months now. Fozzie got in touch. We had a good chat about rugby and life and things in the All Black environment for a wee while. And then just towards the end of the conversation, he asked if I was up for the job and he'd like me to take it on. So he said, no pressure. You got a week to think about it and I'll give you another call. So, look, to be honest, within about an hour of him leaving, I was, pretty ecstatic and that he wanted me to take on that role. After talking with my wife, Harriet, and mum and dad, it became pretty clear that's what I wanted to do. I'm confident I can do a good job.
So did you ring him back? Did you ring him back then and say, I don't need a week? The deal done?
Nah, I didn't ring him back. I just waited for him.
Oh, no! So you knew, and then you didn't ring him. Oh,
look, I'm pretty sure I'm guessing from my reaction and how the rest of the convo went. He must have thought I was pretty confident he was going to get a yes. Yeah.
Hey, such good news, Sammy. Well done, congratulations. I suppose with all this uncertainty going on, you've said you've had a couple of months discussion with Fozzie. At what stage do you yourself as the All Black captain now, start thinking about your team, the team that you bring together in terms of your leadership and things like that?
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a funny one, eh? Named All Black captain, but unsure if I'll even get the chance to lead the boys this year. So, look, there's still plenty of places to be leading in rugby at the moment, off the field, in the way, structuring new comps, making sure us as players are doing right by the game, and just making sure we're keeping ticking along in training so the time comes we can get out and play. But we'll over the next, we've had one All Blacks leadership meeting to sort of get things rolling, and Fozzie led that really well. Also, it was awesome, and I think maybe in a month's time or so we'll have another one just to touch base, because normally during this part of the season we sort of get together once or twice in the lead up to whenever the first campaign is to get the ball rolling, but it's all via Zoom at the moment.
Sam, you've captained the All Blacks those 3 times before, but how much does this feel different to that?
Oh, look, the first time I was so damn nervous. Probably played like rubbish. And then as the next 2 times, sort of a little bit more comfortable. I just think leadership's one of those things that you grow into over time, and you learn more about yourself, about the game, learn to trust your teammates. It's not all on your shoulders. So look, it's entirely different. I can only liken it to the first time you sort of get named as an All Black, because it's a massive honour, and that's how I feel at the moment. Like very privileged to be asked to do this role. It's not really something that you go out chasing to be a captain of any team. You just want to go out there and play rugby. And over the years, you learn and you grow and you evolve. And I suppose if it fits, you get the opportunity, then that's great. But look, I'm really looking forward to the challenge.
Sammy, I mean, you say you're looking forward to the challenge. You've always led from the front in terms of your actions and things, but have you taken sort of some time to think about what off the field looks like in terms of the amount of capacity in terms on sort of how much you want it and your role that you play in that department?
Yeah, I have a little bit because I thought it's important. I'll make sure I know my leadership style pretty well, and I think, look, I like to be very inclusive and build good relationships with the guys in the squad, not just necessarily the guys around my age. I think it's important that the younger guys are a massive part of every team these days. You know, they bring the fizz and the excitement, normally a bit of X factor with them. So it's important to build relationships with them, so that when the time comes that you're having a stern word or tone the line, they know it's coming from a caring place. I just also think I enjoy hearing other people's opinions and their views, and I think that helps me form my own. So I'll be pretty much encouraging everyone to step up and be themselves, hear them out, and I just have to look at some of the quality of players we've got. You know, there's players in that team with plenty more experience than me, and probably a lot smarter too. So I'm not afraid to be wrong. As long as as we get the right answers as a group, then that's a win.
I've got to ask you this: the fact that 19 months ago you're limping off a field, well, not limping, you're thinking to yourself, what have you done? You've broken your neck. This is in Pretoria. That journey to get back to a Rugby World Cup, and now to get this opportunity to captain the All Blacks. I mean, how much was that a big part of maybe getting this opportunity? The fact that the adversity you've faced?
Oh, look, I wouldn't know. I have to ask Foz, I suppose. But if I reflect back, man, it seems like a long time ago, but it's not really, and it's pretty crazy turnaround. So look, I just feel very lucky to be, I suppose, to be able to play rugby from that first and foremost, and then be asked to take upon this job and join a pretty special group and lead some special men. Albeit we don't know when that is, but
when that is,
yeah, hopefully soon.
The All Blacks have pretty much had two captains for the last 15 years. I mean, if you think about the Richie McCoy era and now the Kieran Reid era, you're only 28 years old. I mean, if you stay fit and healthy, you look at this, and in some ways, is this your commitment to New Zealand rugby? The fact that this is where you want to be, and you want the next 4, 5, 6 years of your career to play out?
Oh, look, that seems like a long time away, but absolutely, I've made no secret in the past. I've always signed on ahead of the end of my contract. Now, I still feel like I've got a lot to achieve in the black jersey, and that was purely as a player. So with a little bit more weight on my shoulders, I suppose, and saying to direction in which the team goes, then absolutely committed.
Sammy, I'm interested to know, I mean, at what stage, you said already that, you grow as a leader, but at what stage did you really think that one day, that you could actually step up? Because, I remember you as a youngster coming in, you're very quiet, you're sort of led now, you're very vocal in what you do. At what stage of your professional career did you think, man, I can actually start leading a team?
Well, I came at the end of, I suppose, when I just wanted to come in and earn my stripes. It was never about voicing anything. It was just about earning respect through action. So it's pretty quiet for those first few years. I don't know if there was a moment in time particularly. I think something that really took me by surprise was when, in my second year in the All Blacks, I got asked to join the leadership group. I was just sort of blown away, and at that point I hadn't really viewed myself as a leader too much in any of the teams I've been in. I was just there to do my role as a flanker. So that obviously, I thought, why are they asking me? They must see something in me that I'm not seeing in myself. And there's no doubt that all those hours of sitting in some of those meetings with legends of the game and picking their brains and increasing my knowledge, and then just being exposed to so many great people over the years helps mold your own leadership style.
The reality is too, though, I mean, the one thing you'll always get respected for is you lead by example, and that's what our leaders have always done. Look, there's been a lot of chat, and what about the North-South game? The fact, the appetite from the players, we keep bringing this up because us proud South Islanders always want to have a crack at the North. The reality is, when you players talk about things that could be on the horizon, not just test matches, do those contests, All Black trials, North-South games, possibly tours, are all those things that you go, you know what? I want to be a part of that?
Yeah, I think at least 10 years now, we've sort of rolled out the same format every year. I mean, there was that slight expansion from the Tri-Nations to the Rugby Championship. but more or less everything's been the same. So anything that's slightly different, and something like North versus South has that little bit of a state of origin sort of feel for it. It's a little bit different. You'll have guys that you predominantly view as South Island or North Island players because that's where they play their code, but they're actually from the opposite end. So
I'll challenge you right then. So how would you see it play out? Where do you think the eligibility should come from? Are we talking clubs, schools, province, where you're born? I mean, for you, and don't try and stack your side, but okay, let's work it out. Mills is confused because he went all around, down in the put one of those ones scholarships up to the North Island. He wouldn't know what's going on. But how would you structure it? Who would you like to see where?
Look, I was thinking one of two options: either where you played your first 15 rugby, or you played your first game of senior footy.
To finish off, though, is it a weight off your shoulders? You talked about you've known this, Sam, for a couple of months. I mean, you would have told someone. Come on, you would have told someone, and then what's the conversation afterwards? How hard is it to say to someone, I'm going to be the All Black captain, but you can't tell anyone? I mean, how many people did you actually let people know that this was going to be your opportunity?
If I'm entirely honest, Fozzie said, don't tell anyone. So the only people I told were my wife, Harriet, and I couldn't help but tell mum and dad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it's just been us four for a wee while. Look, obviously the plan wasn't we didn't have to keep quiet for so long, but we didn't know that COVID-19 was just around the corner. So
what does this mean for Chiefs fans then, Sam? I mean,
here we go.
I know rugby's,
couldn't help.
I know. I've got to get it in there. I know rugby's a little bit different this year. We're optimistic that Super Rugby in New Zealand might get going again, but are you going to take a step back as the captain of the Chiefs and let someone else lead, or are you just going to take that responsibility right on through?
Look, I've had a little bit of think about that, and to be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure based off the fact that I don't know what it's like or how much of my energy it'll take up to lead an All Blacks through a campaign. Never experienced that. And at the same time, I want to do what's right by the Chiefs. So, if we get back playing rugby, say mid-June, I don't see why I wouldn't just continue to take that role, not knowing when the next All Blacks test could be. But look, going forward, it's no doubt the conversation we'll have to have.
Sam, congratulations. You do not get this opportunity without deserving it. Look, stay safe, keep training well. We're looking forward to seeing you back out on the paddock. Thank you so much for joining us on The Breakdown on this special night. Cheers, mate.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So John Kerwin he's called on in. JK, we've got a new All Black captain. How exciting, not just for the rugby fraternity, but also we've got a new leader coming across our country.
Yeah, great. I sort of think back to when I was named in the All Blacks, and you guys both remember how special that was. I can't imagine what it's like when the coach rings you and says, would you like to be captain? But life-changing comes to mind, and a great choice. I think there was plenty to choose from, but a great choice. I mean,
as outside backs, we don't get much of an opportunity. But Mills, you've been there and done that. You only did it for a small time, but reality is it is a life-changing moment for a player when you're talking about representing, I suppose, the number one, at the moment number two, but one of the greatest rugby nations to play the game.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. And as you say, JK, when you're sitting there to be named as an All Black, but then asked to lead out, this very special team, and you can see it. He had to keep it a secret for a few months. So he only told the people close to him. So that must have been a heck of a thing to be able to sit on. But such a special moment for him, a great young man, 28 years old. So he's going to be around for a few more years yet. But I can't think of a better person to lead this All Black side.
Well, we have heard from the new All Black captain, Sam Cane. Let's go now to the man who's put him in that position. New All Black coach Ian Foster joins us. Thanks, Fozzie. Look, I suppose in 2020, no plans for test matches, but why now have you decided to give Sam Cane an opportunity to come out as All Black captain?
Yeah, good question. G'day, Goldie, JK. Good to see you. I think we're doing a lot of planning behind the scenes, and clearly it's a tough old time with a lot of uncertainty. But we're assuming that we are going to be playing some things later on, and that involves a lot of work from our management team, and yet we've always felt that it's kind of the All Black way. It's certainly my way, is that I want to get input from my leaders and my senior players earlier on in the planning. So we've waited longer than normal. Normally we're meeting our leaders sort of late March, April, but clearly there's a lot of unforeseen things happen. But we just felt it was time. So we've met our leaders recently, and at that meeting it was good to get the pecking order sorted in many ways. Like it's just been good to get the captain name, and to let people know that Sam's going to be the captain of the All Blacks, and it gives him a chance and time just to influence and build relationships behind the scenes, and that's with both players and management.
Fozzie, is it a process that you go through? And when I heard, I think it's a great choice. I think he's an amazing young man. But then you start thinking about the others. You think, Retallick or Whitelock. I mean, do you go through a process, a real rigid process with all the selectors involved? How does it work?
Yeah, look, I think this one, the answer is we've had some pretty good conversations about it. But, I think both Foxy and Plum have, they've got a great experience in this space. Particularly Foxy knows Sam really well. And it's been my gut feel for a while. We've got some great leaders in our team. And, you've mentioned too that I think would be great captains, JK. So this wasn't a question of making a decision on the one person who could probably do it. It was about which person suited. And I think, Sam's he's got the respect to the training shed. He trains hard. He walks the talk. He's a straight shooter. He likes to think a lot about the game and think about where players are at, and then he wants real clarity. So he can annoy you at times. He comes and asks a lot of questions. He challenges, and I think that's exactly what we want out of an All Black captain. So, we've got some great people in that leadership group, and he'll be part of he'll lead a pretty experienced leadership group when you add the likes of Bowden and TJ, Aaron Smith, those sort of people into the mix as well. So I'm really confident in the quality of the people we've got, but I'm also really confident that he's the guy that he's got a physical approach. He's direct in his questioning with his players, and I think that's the sort of leader that can lead the All Blacks for the next 3 or 4 years.
What was your take on his reaction to the news you were giving him this responsibility?
Oh, look, he was, it's not every day someone comes, knocks on your door and sit down. I mean, so we've had a chat a little while ago, and so when I say I knocked on the door, this is before the lockdown, just to make sure you don't ask that question. And I got him to think about it. But when you've been in the All Blacks for 8 years, I think he's been there. He's been part of the leadership group for 6 years. He understands the magnitude of captaincy, and so even though he may have thought he had a shot at it, I think when he actually got asked, it was incredibly humbling for him. And it's it's not something you ever feel entitled to get asked, do you? And it's but I know for him his response was, it wasn't over emotional, but I could feel that he was just taken back a little bit. But he said yes pretty quickly, and like I said, he's got full support from me. I think he's going to do an outstanding job.
Did you talk to the leadership group? I mean, do you get a feel for them, or is it just something that you got to go, actually, this is my decision, because I've got a choice of 5, really? And when you think about Whitelock, Smith, Barrett, they could all do the job with Retallick, and, there's a few in there, right? Not an easy decision.
Yeah, look, it wasn't, we didn't want a committee meeting about this. We kind of felt that, my gut feel with All Black captaincy is it's, particularly, I'm fortunate I've been in the environment a while, so I know the impact that Sammy's got and the impact the other players have got and the style of them. And I think that the way Sammy particularly relates to all the different ages and types in our group is one of his key strengths. And so for me, I think sometimes when you go around and ask a lot of people, you get a lot of opinions, and you can end up going around in circles a little bit. Whereas for me, it was a choice that I was pretty sure about, and it was a tough choice though. Like, you can be sure of something, and it doesn't make it any easier, to be honest, because I know that there's a couple of other people in there that if I asked them that question and if they said yes, they would have done equally a really good job as well. So But, you know, as a group of management, coaches, selectors, you know, we're really confident in Sam and excited about him putting his mark on this All Black legacy.
Is longevity a part of it? The fact, do you start thinking about cycles? Because I'm sure you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but the fact he's only 28 years old and a Rugby World Cup a few years away, but not too far away, does that come into your thinking when you're trying to appoint someone, given we've only really had 2 captains for the best part of 15 years?
Yeah, look, I think it is a part of it. I think the first box you got to tick is it the right person for the team right now? And, you know, we're like I said, we're pretty confident we've got that right. And but then you look at all the other pitches and you look at development and growth and succession management and, you know, I think so he does tick that box at his age. You know, he's got the ability, you know, to, you know, who knows what life throws up. But, you know, I'd like to think that he could put his hand up for this role for a number of years. And you know, he's come through. If you look at his experiences, he came onto the leadership group, I think, in about 2013 or something when he was young. And we'd put him in there to, I guess, to grow him because we saw leadership qualities. And he had Richie McCaw there to look at the example of how Richie led. And then he's had, you know, he sat alongside Kieran Reid, played next to him and followed his leadership for 4 years. So he's had some great mentors, and he's won a World Cup and he's lost a World Cup. And they're good qualifications too, because that just means he's got a bit of balance on both sides of the ledger.
Yeah.
So, Fozzie, if you were in charge, you think you're going to get out there this year, mate? Please tell us that you've got something planned for us all, and when is it? Without giving too much away, I know you're going to, but are we going to be seeing our new captain and our new coach this year?
Well, I'm incredibly hopeful of that. And, you know, I think, you know, like it's one of those key messages that keep doing the right thing, everyone, because if we keep doing the right thing, the trend is looking good. There's certainly a willingness and an attitude about playing rugby soon. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that whilst I'm totally passionate about the All Blacks playing, and I believe we will, I think when you look at, you know, look at where Australia's trending, we've got that sort of option. You look at the Pacific Islands, so we've got some local options that are I guess, positive at the moment. But, you know, apart from the All Blacks, I'm just so excited about hopefully seeing some Super Rugby soon. You know, I just want to see some rugby on the park. And I know the players are chomping at the bit to get out there. But, you know, in our leaders meeting the other day on the phone, you know, that you could just sense the excitement for them, that they want to play. And, you know, be it a test match early or be it later in the year or be it even maybe an All Black trial or maybe a North-South game, JK. You may
bring it on, Fozzie, bring it on.
Oh, mate, we've got so many ideas, Fozzie. We've talked about so many things. Last week, we had Marshy, myself and JK debating whether or not we should look at tours again, maybe finding a window in the year where you go to somewhere and take a team on tour. For you as a head coach of the All Blacks, and when you're trying to develop players, is there any appetite from your point of view where a tour to South Africa or South Africa coming here, or maybe going to England and playing and travelling as a group? You've been part of midweek games in France. That's happened before. Do you think it's something you could really benefit from, and would you like to see it?
Yeah, look, I think, look, it's one of the things we're talking about a whole lot of different scenarios at the moment, because really the way I see it with the All Blacks is that when borders get open, we're playing. And it's just a matter of, like at the moment, who knows which border's going to open first. So we'll all have our best guess at that. I mean, clearly you'd probably think that a Bledisloe Cup series is going to be very possible sometime, not too late in the year. And who knows, he might even end up playing it in December. It might be the lead into Christmas. So there's going to be a whole range of things that we can do. But if that means there's a case for a tour, then I think that's something that we would definitely consider. So all those things are on the table. But the flip side of it too is that we've also got a great opportunity to, while we're waiting for that, to actually get excited about our domestic competitions. And I just think that when you look at Super Rugby, you look at Mitre 10 Cup, you look at where our country's at and all the different communities are at, I think, that's the part that I'm equally as excited about, is seeing those teams play, because the country got something to go out and support and cheer for in their own backyard. So, there's a whole range of things. But we've got some good ideas. We've got a lot of good people working in behind the scenes, and some pretty good ideas coming up.
Fozzie, thanks so much, mate. Appreciate you coming on, supporting your new All Black captain, the big announcement here on The Breakdown. And, mate, we're like you, like everybody else. We cannot wait to see some football very, very soon. First and foremost, though, stay in your bubble, stay safe.
Will do. Thanks, boss.
Thanks, see you, Fozzie.
Cheers, guys.
He's played over 60 games for the All Blacks. Let's look back at when it all started for Sam Cane in 2012.
Sam Cane making his test debut. What a great experience for him to come on in a situation where the test match is in the balance. Very good tackle by Cane. Carried the ball numerous times, showed good strength at the breakdown as well. Didn't Sam Cane have a great game? He's had an excellent start to his test career. I think it may continue for him long into the future.
Welcome back to The Breakdown. Bernie is back as well. And Bernie, who can believe it? World Rugby. They've acted, well, essentially it's like the speed of light for them.
Can you believe it? They've delivered something ahead of time. We weren't supposed to know the result till the 12th of May to see who would be the new chairman of World Rugby, but apparently it was unanimous. Therefore, Pichot and Beaumont agreed that the announcement should be brought forward. And as we know now, Sir Bill Beaumont, the incumbent, will reign supreme for another 4 years as the head of World Rugby. So how did the nations vote? How did it all stack up? Well, they won't reveal who voted for whom. We have to surmise on a lot of that, and we will. But we do know of the 51 votes, Bill Beaumont snared 28 of them. What that means is that 23 of them went to Pichot. So to me, that speaks volumes of how greatly other nations wanted change. No surprise really that the Six Nations, they voted Beaumont's way, naturally. What has been a surprise, our brothers Fiji and Samoa purportedly voted for Beaumont. Sanzar obviously endorsing Pichot. It seems like it didn't go that way. Why? It's almost like a turkey voting for Christmas, isn't it? Another stunner, Japan. We understand that Japan voted for Beaumont. That wasn't on the cards. They hosted a wildly successful Rugby World Cup. You'd only assume they'll have some long lunches with the top brass of World Rugby and the hosts of the Rugby World Cup last year. Just saying. Had one of the Six Nations countries, though, voted differently, broken ranks and voted for Pichot, the result would have been different. Remember, those nations get 3 votes. That would have been enough to swing it. If you haven't heard Bill Beaumont's reaction at being reappointed, have a listen to this.
I'm absolutely delighted to be re-elected by my peers in the World Rugby Council. There are a lot of hard work to do over the next 4 years, but I'm sure that if we all put together in one direction, we can make this game bigger and make it a more global game.
So Bill Beaumont surely now under immense pressure, huge pressure to deliver a blueprint for global rugby reform. Ever the class act, Augustine Pichot, well, he tweeted his reply. He said, "Congratulations, Bill. Not this time. Thanks to all for the support from the bottom of my heart." Do note the hashtag at the end, global game. Well, New Zealand Rugby's reaction was very, very honest. They said that they were disappointed. They voted for Pichot. They even peppered their press release with a little jab, a little uppercut. They congratulated Sir Bill Beaumont. They went on to say, there is still a level of governance reform that is overdue. And it would be good to see the courage taken to make the decisions needed to ensure the continued sustainability and success of rugby globally, not just for a limited number of unions and regions. Ouch. So Clive Woodward, he echoes that sentiment, saying, "I'm not sure that World Rugby aren't in breach of copyright calling themselves World Rugby. It's just the same old carve-up we've had for a century or more." Love it. He goes on to say, a massive opportunity to take the game forward has been wasted. Well, what Bill Beaumont hasn't wasted time in doing is reigniting the idea that the appetite that we have for a Nations Cup, true global rugby, it's back on the agenda, he says. There is a twist, though. He's saying that the 2-month windows that we normally have, November and July, will actually be condensed to a 2-month period. So essentially we have 2 months of international rugby. Think about the Northern Hemisphere coming south for a month and then Southern reciprocating. That's how it's going to work. He has reiterated and stressed 6 Nations rugby won't be affected. That's a relief. New Zealand Rugby chairman Brent Impey, he did not mince his words in a recent interview. He was very direct, referencing World Rugby directly, saying if these guys don't get on and make change, it's 4 more years of the same, we'll be gone. Sobering, sobering words. No pressure, Bill. No pressure.
Thanks, Bernie. Gives us everything we need to know about what's gone on to date. So we're going to catch up with Mike Umanga, talk to him about the Pacific Island situation in part 3. But JK Mills, when we look at what's happened over the weekend, what's transpired, where it's become clear what direction some teams have gone, what do you think this maybe all means, JK, for a start? What does it mean for New Zealand rugby?
Oh, I think we should leave World Rugby. I think we've got to make a stand, this is classic horse trading. For Bill Beaumont to come out straight away and say, we're not even going to look at the 6 Nations, he has sold that to the 6 Nations to get their votes. And that's the problem with our constitution. So New Zealand have made a stand by saying we voted for Pisho and we want change. I mean, can you believe this is the biggest event to happen in the world? I'm talking about COVID. And everybody has said we all have to change, but not the 6 Nations. It's the only thing in the world, that's above everyone else. I mean,
where does that leave us though, Mills? I mean, if New Zealand rugby, you're sitting back and you're going, you know what, those windows immediately aren't going to change. What does 2021 look about? I mean, that relationship that we've tried to foster with Japan doesn't appear to have taken us anywhere because they've sided with the Northern Hemisphere. How do we react to this? Brent Impey has obviously come out and voiced his concerns and said, you know what, we need to see change, but are we likely to see that? And how do we get ourselves with the ability to have some more influence? Because at the moment, it appears that we're not able to do that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, this is probably the first time, a lot of this has been voiced. So will it get changed? Well, I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that the rugby gods are shining and, everyone out there right now is totally frustrated about where the game has got to. And if we don't do nothing about it, Bill doesn't do nothing about it, we're slowly declining in terms of where the game is going.
JK, we've got established relationships in SANZAAR. That's what we've worked on in recent times. And yes, there seems to be those discussions around the direction, whether or not, and let's call it Super Rugby, but it's the professional arm of the game that is really the questions are being asked right now. We don't know when that's going to happen. So for us, and if you're looking at it and you see those partnerships that we still have, can we establish something? And can we put ourselves in the position to privatise or look at tours that will generate the type of income we need to grow our game, but also protect our players?
Yeah, look, what it's come down to, I'm not worried about Japan not voting. I just think they want to get around the table with the big boys. They want to be included. So I sort of get that. It's the other horse trading that upsets me more. And I think that what we need to be able to do is protect the Southern Hemisphere, because Bill Beaumont and the 6 Nations don't care about our fate. They have an incredibly successful financial game at the moment, but they don't care about us. They will start putting us with the other Pacific nations, right? And that's why we're all upset. SANZAAR is going to have to change. We realise that Super Rugby was not going where we wanted to do. And look, SANZAAR, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia have always had the courage to change. And that's what drives the game forward. We're not getting any joy from the North. And I think, great to see Sir Clive Woodward coming out and saying, we need the change. The world, this is the time, and we haven't done it.
They're talking about this Nations Cup again, though, Mills, and the fact that if we start, do we dilute our game? Do we get to that same old scenario? The fact that we're playing mini World Cups, is that really the answer? The fact that we're not really achieving, and in the end, I mean, what is the responsibility of World Rugby right now? And is it purely and simply about getting its game back on its feet? And is it about being inclusive? We talk about this all the time. For everybody to be a part of the game. How do they do that? Where do they start?
Well, it needs to change. I mean, you talk about these mini sort of Nations Cup. I mean, will it really get that wow factor that everyone wants? Everyone's crying out for change, some excitement in the game. The Rugby World Cup every 4 years is what everyone looks forward to. You dilute that by sort of having these little mini-wee things that sort of, in the end, in my opinion, doesn't mean anything. But to go on what JK sort of mentioned about Sansa, this is when Sansa needs to stay tight, because there's no doubt, over in the Northern Hemisphere, they've got something really good over there. We've got, the product that we have down here, especially now that the South Africans are Rugby World Cup champions as well. We've got to stick tight and make sure that, we keep voicing, we keep staying together. New Zealand's come out. Be interesting to see where Australia now sit with everything else.
What we need is a roundtable discussion where people need to put the game first, right? And look, I love the Six Nations. I coached it. It's a fantastic, amazing tournament. I'm not saying it needs to be changed, but at least have a discussion. At least have a discussion about how we're going to make this a global game. Otherwise, actually, you know what World Rugby is? A waste of time. Because the Six Nations is just going to carry on with their shit, and the Sansa is going to carry on with theirs. No one else cares.
I'll tell you what we are going to do, though. We're going to continue to bring passion like that to the game, and that's really, really important. Stay with us. After the break, we catch up and talk with Mike Umanga about the Pacific Island game. But first, don't forget about Sky Sport presents The Pod. Last week, it was Steve Hansen. This week, the one and only Sir Richard Hadley.
I was voted the International Cricketer of the Year, and there was a presentation on the Sydney Cricket Ground, and I was presented the car, the keys of the car, and the car people were going to ship the car to New Zealand. Management said to me, Richard, you're going to have to sell the car and put the money into team funds. And I said, well, what if I want to keep the car? He says, well, you'd have to put money out of your own pocket into team funds to whatever the value of the car was. I think it was $35,000, something like that. And I think that stigma of keeping the car stayed around for a long, long time. I'd like to think it's all over now, but I think there were some people that were very, very bitter about the decision.
Well, in recent weeks, we know there has been plenty happening around the international game. The Pacific Island game in particular has been a hot topic of conversation. Fantastic to have someone who's been there and done that and still works well and truly inside the game. Mike Umanga played for Manu Samoa, has gone to Rugby World Cups. He's got a brother, Tana, of course, who's played for the All Blacks, a son who's inside the English environment, not far off playing Test match rugby for England. So, Mike, thanks very much for your time. But of course, all the talk at the moment is where the Pacific Island game is going and where it can get to. And for you, as you look back over the last 25 years of professional rugby, how do you see the game having developed for the Pacific Island teams?
Morning, guys. Yeah, it's some really difficult times again. Like we spoke briefly before about it. 25 years and nothing's really changed. So in terms of development, we feel that nothing has moved on. I think when we were playing, the island teams were, regularly making the quarterfinals. The hope is, certainly when we were playing, that we'd be, fighting it out for finals, semi-finals and finals, and that hasn't come about. So we have to look at, why that isn't happening. Because all the players and talent are there, something's not right. And as always, it's the further away from the ball that we have to ask the questions about. What is happening with our governance of our unions? And is everything being done for all that finance to come through?
We're incredibly indebted to Polynesian rugby in New Zealand. We're really passionate about all the Pacific Islands. They give us so much. But I didn't know whether the islands had sold out to World Rugby for something, but then pre-World Cups, the players come out and some of them are still waiting for money from probably your era. But what is this, mate? Is this a sellout from the Pacific Islands themselves, or is this just World Rugby, promising you a dance and then actually not even picking you up from home? I don't know what it is.
I think it might be a bit of both, JK. Certainly the funding comes through, but as many a captain of the Mun Samoa and all the Pacific Islands have said, and come out openly that they're not getting that funding. So there's a block somewhere. So there has to be someone holding on to those finances for their own gains. It stands to reason. Otherwise, and we've never had answers. The players are certainly not getting what they so desperately need. And there's, as you've said there, the talent that's on island and around the world now, in terms of Polynesian players, is massive.
How gut-wrenching is it? Like you talk about nothing's changed, 25 years, nothing sort of changed. There's always talk every year that they're not getting finance from World Rugby. But yet, the one thing that hasn't changed either is the vote. They voted for the same regime. So if I look at it now, is it fair to say that, the governing body in terms of the island nations really need to look at themselves in terms of where that funding has gone? Because is it on the islands now then? Is the focus on them to say, well, pull your finger out?
Oh, it's always. I think that's always been the case, Mills. Players groups have always gone back to the islands. So where is that money? People are giving up good livelihoods to represent their country. The link between the unions and World Rugby, there's probably trade-offs. There's got to be trade-offs. Saying, giving them lip service. Obviously, the unions say, yeah, okay, then you've got our backing. And then something's not happening. It's just, yeah.
Bill Beaumont knows this is happening. So why is he still using the Pacific Island nations for their votes to get back in? It really upsets me, because if he knows this is happening, it's happening on his watch. And he has to step in and protect the game as a whole. Yeah. And I don't understand have you heard what this promise is all about? I mean, this is a game at Twickenham for both of the teams. What is this?
I think the promise, from what we've gathered, is there must be promise of seats at the table. He's promised a review of the eligibility law, but again, we feel it's only lip service.
Reality is, though, I mean, financially, the contracts the players can garner overseas than staying at home is more this about giving Samoa, Manu Samoa, an opportunity to play legitimate test matches, to generate income, to have the right preparation time. Is that where the change needs to happen? Or is the eligibility rule critical, in your view, to them becoming more competitive in the future?
Well, I think it's one of those chicken and eggs, because it's never been done before. So I think if you look at those players available, at this moment in time, they would definitely make a difference. But then, if that's going to happen, then everything has to be in place on island for that team to succeed.
You've got this with your son, for example. If you're a Fijian, say you're playing in France, you're getting $150,000, $200,000 a year. You went back to play for Fiji, you don't get paid. Why would you go? Why would you go? So the eligibility law is going, well, unless you actually start paying them properly, what's the use? I mean, not only those that have played, because I'm a firm believer that, Luatua, Piatau should be available to play for their nations of birth or their parents' birth. I totally believe in that, under 5 test matches. But my problem is if they're going to go and risk $200,000 a year and not get paid, they're not going to go anyway, are they?
Yeah. Well, for some of them, I know certainly some of the guys, the pull of the jersey as the blue jersey as is the black jersey was massive. My son, we had those discussions. Dad, I want to go and play for Manu Samoa. Hang on a minute, son. Financially, is that the best thing for you? And knowing what's happening in terms of the unions and stuff, you'd have to, as a parent, say, well, you're in a system now that's pretty solid. Why not give that a shot? So, but you know, he still hankers for either the blue or black jersey. You know, he has a New Zealand passport as well. So, you know, it's you know, it's a tricky situation. And in terms of, like you say, JK, the amounts of money they get over here, and all it takes is one injury, and that's gone.
Is the pull of the blue jersey still imminent over in the UK?
Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's international rugby at the end of the day, but also the family pool. You know, representing your family is massive, you know, for Pacific Islanders, and if they get the opportunity to do that, you know, a lot of them will take that over, you know, over their employers, you know, rightly or wrongly, and they can lose out on it. But you know, that playing for your islands with your, you know, a lot of them brothers and cousins, as in most teams, is massive. You know, you know, the boys really do, you know, without, you know, you ask any one of them, they'll say, well, mate, the environment is massive. Hanging out with the boys is, you know, is awesome, but we didn't get paid again.
It sounds as like this is going to come down to leadership, right? Whether it's at World Rugby, whether it's from Manu Samoa within there, or the players. I mean, for you, who's going to be critical? Who are going to be the people you are going to need to see step up?
We've always said this, and we need World Rugby to step up, and you know, have a look at the governance of the unions. What we feel is that there's a lack of business acumen on Ireland that can, you know, steer the unions in the right way with all that funding, but also developing, you know, a development plan that suits the player and the union, so that, you know, the performance is consistent, you know, through the whole 4-year cycle leading up to World Cup. Because at the end of the day, that's, you know, that's the biggest stage where, you know, the islands want to perform, and there's always hiccups along the way. So how can we, you know, put something in place that looks after the players all the way through to that product? But then also, how do we look after them when they come out of that? You know, whether Bill Beaumont is that man again. Well, history tells us it's no. I mean, we had a chat with Gus Pichot only a couple of weeks ago. A very passionate man, and you know, the need for change was obvious, and you know, someone with some fresh ideas. But again, you know, I think there was some issues regarding his relationship with the islands, and you know, it's I think Bill Beaumont is probably good at probably tickling a few tummies and keeping people happy.
You've obviously done a great job bringing up your young boy. He can certainly play. You guys are in lockdown, but it sounds as though you're well and truly taken care of. You've got basketball gyms, fields to kick a ball around, mate. Take care. Look after yourself. Thank you so much for coming on the breakdown, brother.
Thank you, guys. All take care. Cheers.
Well, if you talk about uncertainty, JK, the islands, the Pacific Island nations, where they sit right now, if you're talking about World Rugby and the direction that the game is going to go, there are some things we just don't know right now.
Oh, I tell you what I do know, though. I tell you what I do know, which really, really... so this is for Bill Beaumont, right? What I got out of that was, we know this has been happening for a long time, and he's done nothing about it on his watch. Not only that, he's asked or got a couple of votes from the Pacific Island teams to get him over the line. Congratulations to New Zealand for not voting for him, by the way. We wanted change. He promised us change. Did nothing in the first 4 years. Then he comes out day one and says, oh no, we're not going to move the Six Nations. I mean, without even considering it. Strike number two. Strike number three. You've been there, Bill, for 4 years as president. You've been there for, I think, 10 years total. Why do you need an independent review of what is going on? Ask New Zealand Rugby Union. Ask the Australian Rugby Union. Ask Pichot, who just lost. We want change, and you've come out already and upset us by saying, oh, you know, Staten, you know, maybe we'll look at it. Nah, I'm not happy. I'm not happy, and I want some answers, because what Mike just told us really, really upsets me. So, change the vote, Bill. Change the vote. Give everyone an equal vote. Otherwise, This is going to be the same in 4 years' time. Second thing, change our game. And if the Six Nations have to change, we're going to change. They should change. If they don't have to change, that's cool. But don't come out and say no change, because that's not what we want. And the third thing I forgot,
because you got going. And Mills, I mean, and he's 100% right. I mean, you talk about change and you talk about, I think, the Pacific Islands and Mike himself, when he's having conversations with his own son about where he should play, tells you the fact that there isn't enough support then for the islands, for some of these young men who have choices to make, the security, the fact that they are going to get rewarded for them playing for their countries, unless that's going to change, unless the governance changes, and trusted governance, the fact that money that's invested in the islands is going to go through at all levels. I can imagine a lot of these young men are still going to choose to ply their trade elsewhere.
Well, you're exactly right, and you know, JK, you know, it warrants being that upset about it, because you just get totally frustrated about it. You're hearing Mike 25 years since he's worn the blue jersey, and nothing, you know, there's still the same issues, and so when you look at it like that, and you come out and nothing's really changed, the islands have gone, they've backed, you know, Beaumont once again, but what are they backing him over? Has he sort of promised them more funding, and then sort of just to get those votes? So he hasn't sort of brought anyone sort of from, you know, World Rugby to say, well, okay, here's this funding, but we're going to help you manage it. We're going to put someone in there to have accountability so that your players do get, you know, paid when this money that we're giving you, so that your players have got that resource, and teach them to actually build that, so then they can get better to then, you know, hopefully warrant that vote that JK is talking about.
All of a sudden, the game to me, when it needs to come together, probably at the moment is more divided.
when you have a constitution that is not fair, someone's going to sell their vote. And that's what smells for me. What smells for me is, we all know, and let's not put, any singular nation in the crap here, excuse my language, but we know that the players haven't been getting paid. We know that the World Rugby's been funding them, and yet that's not being addressed. So why all of a sudden do the island teams become important pre an election? Because they've got one vote, match them up, and I can get over the line. This is wrong, and our game needs to change the constitution. Everyone should have a fair vote.
7 days is a long time in rugby. We've seen that. The 7 days past, we've seen the same chairman of World Rugby. We've got a new All Black captain. Great to catch up with Sam Cane. That is our man for the future. Ian Foster as well. We've talked the global game. Gents, I'll tell you what, as usual, I can't wait till next Tuesday, because you guys, I can tell once again, are going to be on top of your game. Thanks again for everyone watching. We'll see you next Tuesday night.